Before The Force Awakens ever came out, and all we had to go on were some trailers and other pieces of information, I was fine with the idea that Luke had a child and that Rey would turn out to be his daughter. Heck, I'd say I was even hoping for it, because I'd been assuming all along that this new trilogy would be about his kid, along with the children of Han and Leia. I thought it might be, at least in some small respect, vaguely similar to what the old EU had done, but probably much different in terms of how the story would actually play out. That way you at least try to honor the fans of the old EU and the dedication they'd shown to Star Wars for so long, and yet do something new that would keep even them guessing as to what was going to happen next. However, after I watched The Force Awakens for the first time, I realized that, for better or worse, the old EU had been completely discarded, and this new trilogy was going to be nothing like what we once knew. And to be honest, I was pretty much okay with that, and excited for a new take on the post-Return of the Jedi Star Wars era. I also could understand Disney and Lucasfilm's decision to tell the story they wanted to tell, without chaining themselves to the ideas of the old EU. Whether you like it or not, it does make sense on their end. Now, something else I realized after watching The Force Awakens for the first time, and I know there are many that are going to completely disagree with me, but try to hear me out on this, but I thought the clues in the movie were not pointing at Rey being Luke's daughter, much to my surprise considering I went into this movie expecting that. Instead, I thought they were pointing to her being, well, no one, that she was born to average parents on Jakku who had left her behind for some reason. Maybe that reason was selfish on their part, and they just wanted to escape such a desolate planet and couldn't afford to take Rey with them, or maybe there was another reason they had to leave her. Or maybe they even intended to come back for her and something happened to them. And yes, I know many people will bring up, well, why did Anakin Saber both call out to her at Maz's castle and then go to her in the battle against Kylo Ren? And why did Maz Kanata say that she could bring back Luke? Honestly, the answer to that all could really be as simple as the Force, or the Force Ghost perhaps, want her to go to Luke because he is the last Jedi, the only one left in the galaxy that can teach her in their ways, and it is her destiny to continue the legacy of the Jedi. So where else would she be led to but to Luke? Remember that Maz also tells Rey that the belonging she seeks is ahead, not behind, and I think that's the real key here. Rey's story is ahead of her about who she'll become, not behind her and about who her parents were, and that's why I don't think she'll start out as a Skywalker, or the daughter of anyone else we know for that matter, but that she'll become a Skywalker. And now you might be wondering, well, how does that make any sense? How does she become a Skywalker? If they wanted her to be a Skywalker, why not just make her Luke's daughter and be done with it? Well, for a couple of reasons. The first being, once you make her the daughter of Luke Skywalker, you'll diminish her as a character in some ways, because there are those who will just assume that everything she does henceforth in these movies is only because she is a Skywalker, not that she has done them because of who she is or who she made herself. And if you watch any interview Kathleen Kennedy gives on the topic of Rey, and she of course is the president of Lucasfilm, she will always talk about how important it is that they've made Rey this strong, independent female character. And I really don't think they're going to take this character and put her in the shadow of the Skywalker family and explain her that way. In fact, she's such a strong character that she's probably going to pull Luke out of his funk that he's in, and more or less save him from his dark thoughts and his doubts about the Jedi. However, I do think there could be an interesting twist to how she saves Luke that I'll get into shortly. But first, let me get to another reason why I don't like the idea of her being Luke's daughter at this point. How did Luke lose her, and why has he never come for her? Why did he exile himself on the island for years instead of looking for his daughter? Because you're telling me that Luke Skywalker, a man who had enough faith in Darth Vader, who was his father of course, to bring him back to the light, has now abandoned everything and everyone, all his friends and his family, including his daughter? If that's the case, they really have taken Luke to a dark place mentally. Now, I know some of you will immediately counter with reasons why Luke has gone to the island instead of seeking out his daughter, and I'll try to go over them all as briefly as I can and point out why they probably don't make much sense. First, maybe he took her to Jakku and left her there to protect her from someone who was looking for her, that most likely being Snoke. And because of the light side nexus on Jakku, Rey's powers are either repressed while there, or she's just hidden and unable to be sensed by other Force users. Now at first this theory seems pretty good, until you realize that Luke, or someone he trusted, took her to Jakku and left her with Unkar Plutt. And I just, for the life of me, can't figure out why him of all beings in the galaxy. Certainly Luke would have known someone to watch after her and protect her, and that he wouldn't have just given her to Unkar Plutt and left her on Jakku where there was a good chance she was going to die there. I mean, would you leave your own child in the care of Unkar Plutt, or would you try to find someone better? Then there's the question of, is anywhere in the galaxy safer for Rey than at Luke's side? Did he really need to hide her from Snoke? Or couldn't he just protect her on his own? Okay, then there's the idea that Kylo Ren abducted Rey and took her to Jakku and hid her there from Luke or for some other nefarious purpose. Only there's one big problem with this theory. Ben Solo hadn't yet fallen to the dark side when Rey would have been taken to Jakku. Thanks to the book Bloodline, which is 100% canon, we know Ben Solo doesn't become Kylo Ren till at least 6 years before the events of The Force Awakens, which means in order for Kylo Ren to abduct and hide Rey, she would have had to have been around 13 at the time she was left on Jakku, and quite clearly, she was much younger than that in the Force vision where we saw her being left behind. Next up, someone besides Kylo Ren kidnapped Rey and took her to be hidden on Jakku, knowing that Luke wouldn't be able to find her while she was there because of the light side nexus interfering with his ability to sense her. Now, I actually did a whole video on this theory, and I'll leave a link to it in the description, and I'll say this is not an impossibility, because if someone else did kidnap her and knew to take her to Jakku where Luke couldn't sense her, he might think she was dead, and therefore not go looking for her. It also gives one more reason why he has withdrawn himself from everyone and gone to the island. Then there's the possibility that Luke had a child and just didn't know about it, which also isn't impossible. It could be that he fell in love with someone, and you could even make it Mara Jade if you wanted, and when she got pregnant, she left Luke, not wanting her child to lead the life of a Jedi for one reason or another, and eventually she got taken to Jakku and left there, though why would still be a big mystery. This, though, would explain why Luke never goes looking for Rey, because he doesn't know she exists and has never felt her through the Force. However, I think the biggest strike against this theory is I just don't see them taking the story in this direction. Plus, I feel like this would require quite a bit of explanation and create more questions than it could ever hope to answer. Now, most other theories that involve Luke being Rey's father are going to have the problem that Luke would have known he had a child and for some reason gave up looking for her. And I'd have to imagine, no matter where she'd been hidden from him or where she was in the galaxy, he would have been, at the very least, able to reach out through the Force and feel her loneliness and despair, if not her exact location. And if that's the case, how could a father knowing the despair of his child ever stop looking for her or just leave her where she was? And even if he couldn't sense her and thought maybe she was dead, I still can't imagine Luke giving up the search until he knew for sure one way or the other. Again, not the guy that wouldn't give up on Darth Vader. So, going back to what I was saying before, that Rey won't start off as a Skywalker, but that she will instead become one. How's that possible? First, Rey likely isn't even her real name, but rather the name she took off the X-Wing helmet that we saw her wear in The Force Awakens, and one she made her own because she either doesn't remember her real name or doesn't want to remember it. Honestly, I don't think we're ever going to learn what Rey's real name is, not in the movies at least, because that name has already become famous within the Star Wars fandom, and I can't imagine them changing it in one of these coming movies. Anyway, as I was saying earlier, I think that Rey is going to be the one who saves Luke and brings him out of his little funk and makes him believe in the Jedi again. But how exactly is she going to do that? Well, it could be as simple and bland as, over the course of her training, Luke sees something in her that makes him begin to believe again, or you could put more of a twist on it, and hopefully they do, and make it that even though Luke is training her, he's not giving it his all, or maybe he has a hidden agenda for her. And come the end of The Last Jedi, something happens and Rey has her faith and belief in Luke completely rocked, and this news could be told to her by none other than Kylo Ren, who she chooses to go off with for one reason or another, maybe because he tells her that together they can destroy Snoke. This could all happen while Luke is not around, and the way Rey decides to tell Luke of her choice is to leave Anakin's saber behind for him to find. Then when Luke finds it, he vows to himself that he won't let her fall to the dark side and makes his choice to embrace the Jedi ways again and to go and save not just Rey, but also Ben. And this could basically be how The Last Jedi ends. And then at some point in episode 9, Luke will find Rey and give her Anakin's saber back and convince her to come back to the light by telling her that she is family. And in his eyes, she is a Skywalker, and this belongs to her now. That the legacy of not only his family must go on, but that the Jedi as well, and she will be the one to carry on both of those names. Now personally, this is one of the few ways I'll be okay with Luke being a broken man in The Last Jedi, and one who has given up on the Jedi ways. And that's if he eventually comes back to them in an effort to once again fight for and save those he cares about. It also makes sense that, in a way, finding her family could be what pulls Rey away from the darkness, because it's what she's wanted all along. It could also usher in a new era for the Jedi, one where all attachments are not shunned as weaknesses, but embraced as strengths. Bringing this change to the Jedi could then be the lasting legacy of Luke Skywalker. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Do you think that Rey, in a sense, could be adopted into the Skywalker family, and go on to bring forth a new type and generation of Jedi after this trilogy is over? Let me know in the comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, if you liked this video, check out some of my other ones or go ahead and subscribe. If you've already done all that, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, hit the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.